We have a couple of small projects for our basement family room. One of them is to hang some antique tapestries that we have. They're these woven rugs that aren't very big, and we'd like to hang them on the wall to display them. And we think they'd fit in the basement decor nicely. So we have this spot over in the corner of the basement that we'd like to hang these on the wall, but a few things have to move first. I'm going to have to find a better place for the globe. And I'm going to need to move the Mount St. Helens piece that I did a few years ago. And I think I want to put it over in that corner, but it's going to be a small project to make that work. So that will hopefully be part of this as well. So the project now is to figure out how to hang these on the wall nicely without damaging the pieces themselves. And we have 4, so 4 should fit nicely here. We can make sort of a little grid of 4. I looked at different ways of hanging fabric on the wall, and they all seemed a little bit intrusive to the art. As in, you had to do something that not so much damaged, but at least changed a little bit, like sewing Velcro to the back or clamping the edge in sort of a wooden clamp setup. What I landed on was to use a piece of plexiglass that I've had in the shop for a while, waiting for a project. What I would do is sandwich the edge of the piece of fabric between 2 pieces of plexiglass. For some reason, when I used this piece of plexiglass the last time, I took the paper off of it. So to protect it a little bit, I put some strips of tape on the side that would be down on the table saw. And I tried cutting it at first with the blade that I use for pretty much everything, and it worked okay, but it did seem like it could be better. And I just happened to be shopping for a few other things, and I picked up a blade that's designed for cutting, I think, laminates, but also plastic. So I gave that a try, and that did seem to cut a little better. It's also brand new and nice and sharp, so that helps as well. I got a slightly better cut with it. What I need are 2 strips for each piece. So I cut those strips and then cut them to length. And I tried to clean up the edge a little bit. I realized what I should have is a heat source to polish the edges, but I don't have that, so I just sort of did it manually. On the back side of 4 of the pieces, I wanted to cut a slot for the nail in the wall so the piece could hang on the wall. I've had a couple of single flute bits for the CNC machine waiting for a project with plastic. So that chance finally came along. The 1/8 inch bit that I used worked great. I cut the holes for the screws to hold the 2 pieces together on the drill press. I wondered about doing everything on the CNC, but that would have meant somehow holding the pieces down in a way that would allow me to get to where the holes for the screws would be. I suppose the next logical way to do this on the CNC would be to cut out all the pieces from the big sheet of plexiglass. But this would have meant a lot of long, straight cuts, cutting out rectangles, which didn't seem like the best way to go. I'd thought about making the shapes of the plexiglass not just be rectangles, which I could do if I just cut everything on the CNC. But this is sort of a project I want to disappear. I really don't want it to be about the shapes of the plexiglass, because it's really about the wall hangings. I didn't want to do like a wavy edge or a big curve or anything like that. I really just wanted simple rectangles. So in drilling the holes, I would do one hole and put a screw and a bolt through that hole, and that would hold the pair of pieces together. Then I could drill the other 3 holes. And in doing this, I didn't need to make the holes any bigger than they needed to be for the screw. Meaning, I didn't need any adjustment between the 2 pieces of plexiglass. And I countersunk for the head of the bolt. Once all the holes were drilled, I tried buffing the edges, and this helped a little bit. It's not quite polished, but it's pretty good. Then I can put the pieces into the plexiglass hanging clamps. So it's really just a matter of putting the screws through the back, actually through the front piece, and the piece of fabric is flipped over. And what I was thinking about is that I was going to need a way to straighten the strings at the end of the fabric. So what I thought I would do is to make a quick wooden comb of sorts. So I found a piece of, I think a thin piece of cherry, sort of a scrap piece, and I cut a section off of the end, and I sort of just eyeballed a bunch of cuts in it to make the tines or the bristles of the comb, as they didn't really need to be perfectly even. They just needed to be sort of close. Then I shaped the ends of the comb, of the tines, I guess you'd call them. And I shaped the whole piece on the disc sander, trying to make the ends a little bit pointier. And my hope was this would help straightening out the strings at the end of the pieces. And it kind of worked. As I was doing this and thinking about it, I realized a simple dinner fork would work a lot better than what I had made. So I went and got a fork. That worked a little better. This particular piece, the strings are really curly. Then once the front plate and the screws are in place, I can put the back piece on. And it's the back because it has the cutout for the nail in the wall. And I got simple nuts for the ends of the bolts. I guess they're bolts more than screws. I tightened these up just enough, but not too much, as I didn't want to really clamp and compress the strings. I just wanted it enough where it would be held. I made all of the slots in the ends of the bolts horizontal, and it seems to work, and it feels quite secure. So I took all 4 downstairs, and I thought about exactly where they should go. What I began to realize is the top row is going to have to be fairly high, so the bottom row wouldn't be too close to the floor. So I kind of laid them out, and I found the rough center of the wall. They didn't have to be perfect. They just had to be close enough that it looked good. Put a nail in for the upper piece. I hung a ruler to find vertical, and that would locate the lower nail. And I put them both in the seam in the pattern of pieces on the wall, so they'd all sort of hang in the same place within that pattern. Then it was just getting a dimension for the second column, and I got that fairly close. then I could put the last one up. It actually works really well. It just sits right on that slot for the nails, and they look pretty nice. Remember the Mount St. Helens project that needs to be moved? In the spot where I wanted to move that to, there's a speaker for our old house intercom system that kind of works, but not very well. And I wanted to put the Mount St. Helens piece over that speaker. And that speaker sticks out from the wall just a little bit, about 5/8 of an inch. When I had started to think about this, I thought I would make a frame, and then I thought about making a frame on the back of the piece. What I actually came up with was to just put some spacers on the back. And I could even just hot glue those so they aren't all that permanent. So this became a really simple project. Then I could add a nail. This nail is a little bigger, so I drilled a pilot hole for it. And it's just a matter of putting this up. It works really well. I am wondering if the piece wants a frame or something else. It kind of just blends in with the wood behind it, which maybe is okay. It just makes the wall look really simple. For now, it looks great. So this wall is mostly done. There's one little spot where we used to have a light switch, and I've been running around for the last 10 minutes trying to find something to put over that. And I'm thinking maybe it just becomes an entire project in itself. But the wall hangings seem to be working just fine. I like the way the plexiglass sort of disappears. So when you're sitting in the middle of the room, it just looks like these are just floating on the wall, which is kind of nice. And it holds the tassels or the fray or whatever you call the string on the ends up. Just like they hang at the bottom, they poke up at the top, which is kind of nice. Seems to be working. Thanks for watching.